Shabbat Shalom, my beautiful family. It's the Intuitive Cosmic Family, God's Hammer here. And today we're continuing our Sabbath session with King James Version, Numbers, chapters 25 through 29. So we're going to go ahead and discuss some of the things that stood out to us and what Spirit led us to as we read through the chapters. Leah?
I'm Aaliyah, and what stood out to me was Numbers chapter 25, verses 2 and 3. And they called the people unto the sacrifices of their gods, and the people did eat and bow down to their gods. And Israel joined himself into Baal Peor, and the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel. This stood out to me because it kind of reminded me of Genesis when Moses had went up to Mount Sinai to talk to God, and they was down there acting a fool around the golden calf. Reminded me because the Lord basically told them that they're not supposed to worship these false idols, and these people right back and did it again, and they're disrespecting God multiple times and stuff. And he keeps giving them more chances, and now he's really angry with them because he told them not to do it, and they're disobeying him for some reason. You know, he's giving them all they need and all they ask, and they still disobey him.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's why that's.
So you said they're disobeying him for some reason. What do you think the reason why they keep doing the same thing? Why they're disobeying God's orders?
They're never like fully fulfilled. Maybe they're still seeking more.
More what?
Maybe more.
Don't hold back, sis. Tell us.
Maybe they're not. They're just greedy.
Greedy for what?
Like they're just greedy for materials and stuff.
Okay. Like fleshiness, livelihood, entertainment,
yeah,
something like that.
They don't really need the calf, but for some reason they still make them and go out their way to do them.
Right. So the calf situation. So with that calf, that's like the statue, right? Because remember, Pharaoh has the statues too. So remember, they're doing some of the same ideologies as what the Egyptians were, right? Because they had, the statues with the gods, right? The golden statues that they were praying to. They had multiple gods, and for them, they have to feel, they have to see. So to me, this also is a reminder of why a lot of people have idolatry issues too today with like maybe celebrities or just people in general, right? Like their pastor, their priest, different various spiritual, social constructs of people where they hear the things they say and they take it as like, oh, this is the mighty word. Like they said it, so this has to be it because this person is just they're just touched by God. Like, they're wealthy or they're this or, they've been able to lead all these people or all these things. And in reality, they're really just caught up in the flesh, right? They're caught up in the materialistic and the vanity, which is a common factor here. It's been spoken about quite a lot in Numbers, the word vanity. And so, yeah, it's just about flesh. And I heard some other people talking about that too, and I think that's a huge thing we're dealing with. Like even with like in social media, right? Like with influencers too, right? We have a lot of people who are influencers, and that's why they kind of step away from it too, or come back. Like especially if they're more, you know, humbled people versus the ones who are really fighting for the limelight or who seek it so much. But a lot of them have followers too who have that, like if they can't see this person, if they're not on there, then they're like they don't know what to do. Like every day they need this material, every day they need to be watching these other people instead of focusing on their own lives. That's really that same kind of energy. It's like I need this physical being, this person, in order for me to feed off it, in order for me to be like, okay, I can pray to this person. Okay, I can seek something from this, statue, this deity, because God is what? He's in the spirit. He moves through us all, right? And then, and if we can't see, we can't see our God, then they're not there, right? This God is not there because I can't see them in the physical, right? These people are in a need of having to see something very physical. So they're a very physical, fleshy, thought process with that.
This is Richard. What spoke to me was chapter 27, verse 14. For ye rebelled against my commandment in the desert of Zin, and the strife of the congregation to sanctify me at the water before their eyes. That is the water of Meribah, and Kadesh, and the wilderness of Zin. And Moses spake unto the Lord, saying, Let the Lord, the God of the spirits of all flesh, set a man over the congregation, which may go out before them, and which may go in before them, and which may lead them out, and which may bring them in, that the congregation of the Lord be not as sheep which have no shepherd.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why this spoke to me was because it's basically explaining how the people that rebelled against God weren't going to see the promised land, but people like Caleb and Joshua were going to see the promised land.
Okay. And you said people like that of God that were going to rebel. Who were some of the people who rebelled against God in that particular verses you read? Because they were called out. Who was the person or people who didn't do what the Lord wanted them to do, who rebelled against God? It says, for ye rebelled against me, my commandment. The Lord is speaking to someone in particular. Who?
Aaron?
Aaron's gone.
Oh.
But in an instance, yes, too. But who's he speaking to?
Moses?
Yeah, right, Moses. Because remember, this goes back to when Moses and Aaron were directed to,
touch the stone.
Yeah, they were directed to thrash the stone, right, with their knives to strike the stones for water for the people in the wilderness. And they doubted God's ability to carry out with the order, the commandment he gave them. They thought, well, this is silly, right? They didn't say that, but they thought twice about it. We need not think twice when God is ordering us to do things that may seem, like they're not going to work out or make sense to us. But remember, our God is a miracle worker, right?
Yeah.
So we need not folly or we need not doubt his works. Okay?
Yes.
So that's a good reminder about, doubting God's works and commandments. Because he already know what people are trying to do or what's coming up against us. So he's already well prepared to make way when it seems like there is none. What else did you want to add? Anything else on there? You said about Caleb and Joshua.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now we know that Caleb and Joshua are going to be leaders coming out of the wilderness, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's why when God told Moses and Elijah to save Caleb and Joshua was because later on Joshua was chosen by God.
Okay, yeah. And so Elijah is now the priest because he is what? He is from the lineage of Aaron. And he's going to, sanctify and pray over their obedience, right? For Joshua and Caleb. And so they're going to put hands on them, as they say, right?
Yeah.
So for me, what stood out was chapter 27. I'm going to start with verses 5 and 6, but the chapter starts off with the daughters of Zelophehad, and the son of Hepher, and the son of Gilead, the son of Machir, and the son of Manasseh, and the son of the families of them, and the names of their daughters. And so it names the daughters, which is Mahlah, Noah, and Hagla, and Milcah, and Tirzah. And they stood before Moses, right, in verse 2, and they basically like telling him, like, listen, our father died when he was in the wilderness, and basically we believe that we have rights to his, his fortunes, his possessions, everything that's a part of his lineage. Like, it shouldn't just be because he's, he don't have any sons, so it's not like just the sons. And so Moses is speaking to God, and it says in verse 5, and Moses brought their cause before the Lord. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, the daughters of Zelophehad speak right. Thou shalt surely give them a possession of an inheritance among their father's brethren, and thou shalt cause the inheritance of their father to pass unto them. And thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel, saying, if a man die and have no son, then ye shall cause his inheritance to pass unto his daughter. And if he have no daughter, then ye shall give his inheritance unto his brethren. And if he have no brethren, then give his inheritance unto his brethren's brethren. And if his father have no brethren, then he shall give his inheritance unto his kinsman, that is the next to him of his family, and he shall possess it, and shall be unto the children of Israel as a statute of judgment, as the Lord commanded Moses. So basically saying that it shouldn't just be, for the males, right? Or the sons. So it's basically saying that if someone have a possession, it should go on to the people in their family. There shouldn't be a reason why the people in their family still don't deserve a possession. So they shouldn't be just like if he have sons. If they have daughters, their daughters have rights too, right? Because not all of these men in these tribes were going to have just sons, right? Or even if they did, maybe a son passes away, or so on or so forth, and so all they have left is daughters or some other person in their family. Their lineage, their possessions from their lineage, and their rights need to get passed on to someone else in their kinship line. So we see that order, and that was always something that stuck out for me, and that's important. The other thing that spoke out to me was in chapter 25, the first 4 verses. And Israel abode in Shittim, and the people began to commit whoredom with the daughters of Moab, and they called the people unto the sacrifices of their gods, and the people did eat and bow down to their gods, and which is plural. And Israel joined himself unto Baal Peor, and the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel. And the Lord said unto Moses, take all the heads of the people and hang them up before the Lord against the sun, and the fierce anger of the Lord may be turned away from Israel. So basically, there's 2 things happening here. You have them doing the same things they were doing in Egypt. They came out of Egypt, but they did it again. Remember, Moses goes up to meet with God for 40 days and 40 nights. And when he comes back down, they out there, as we call it now times, they were gigoloing. And they got Aaron to partake in it. Remember, because Aaron, he passed the basket around. He helped collect gold to melt into, Baal, which is the golden calf that they use to praise and honor this god, this false god, as they say, often in the Apocrypha. It just it's a piece of wood. It has no spirit. It has no soul. It has no life, right? But because it's a physical being, because it was made out of gold, now it's of importance, it's of significance. And this is the reason why God has always been saying not to mingle and not to be a part of some of these other cultures and heritages, is because they don't have the same, respect. They're not carrying the same type of attitude, should I say, about what is allowed and what is not. Remember, because at this time, a lot of other cultures and communities, their religion or spiritual beliefs were to, to praise multiple different gods or deities, right? They had multiple gods and deities, and we know we are serving one God, right? And while he may work with several forms of spirits that come and encompass for him, we are only speaking to the Most High, right? We're dealing with the Most High God. When we call out for need, when we call out for stuff, we're calling out to the Most High God. We're not calling out to individual, places. We call one person, he sends out the cavalry. Got that? And so that's the insignificance. That's the significance of that. And then the second part of it is, so it's basically saying, in order to balance this thing back out, Moses has got to get rid of these people, right? So he's saying we've got to rectify this, because now you done made God angry because y'all back doing the same thing. Here we are again. It's like again and again, and it just shows you too how fleshy, and how weak a lot of the people are too in the congregation, because it's like, here we are, y'all been through this long trial of the wilderness. You were dealing with it in Egypt. Y'all lost a lot of people along the way for some of these very similar things. And all it took was for you to come across these other group of people again, right? And now you're back at it, right? You're easily, manipulated. You have easily been led astray to do things that don't fit, the narrative. You're so ready to go ahead and, praise these gods. But remember, this is the God that brought you from being in bondage. This is the God that gave you water in the middle of the wilderness, that helped you escape a whole army from the Egyptians. Okay? But somehow it's not enough. You still must praise something because you see it. That's it. That's all you looking at. Your face value person. You don't. And so there we are. So that stood out for me again too. And so then God also goes on and tells Moses later, like, look, these people keep trying to vex you. Now we ready to vex them. About to get this, we gonna have to put up arms for this matter. So God, they definitely have opened up the gates of God's wrath here. And so this is when the plague hits, and so they lose 24,000 people. So 24,000 people have to die because they are hard-headed. They hard-headed, and they backwards, and they keep backsliding, and they keep sinning, and wanting to be a part of this fleshy ways. Okay, so one thing I was speaking to my kids about in the midst of this, guys, was discernment. So discernment is so big. I was telling them about how important these Sabbath sessions are, how important just, getting in tune with your spirituality in the Bible, and how the Bible sometimes can come off as if it's something like where it's just, prim and cut, like God is telling us to never be, we're not allowed to have fun, or we're not allowed to be who we are or have culture. Some people think that, right? Because we have so many sides of it. You see some people celebrating God, and, they in the naked, and then you got some people serving God, and, it's so prim cut, and they see somebody doing one little thing, they clap too hard, and oh my gosh, these people are lewd. They're, it's always this version of what people think God wants us to be. But we've seen it time and time again in the Bible where we have a various group of people, of talented people, and what God wants us to know most is to be people of wisdom, people of discernment, because discernment is so important to have, so we can recognize the people in our lives that are good, people who are just, people who are holy and want to do good and upright things. And then we can also recognize the people who are trying to do the opposite of that, and we can do what we need to do to get them out of our lives and out of our paths and our energy sector. And one of the things I was talking to them about is this belief system of what it's like to be in touch with God. Well, what it's like to be in touch with God is someone who has visions, someone who's, being obedient, that has been touched by God, is one of God's chosen people. God will give you talents, right? And that could be a multitude of talents. It could be one very large talent. A lot of us are seers, are light workers. A lot of us are prophets and priestess, high priestess, prophetess. And so we have to take these gifts that God gave us and become enlightened with them, right? And a lot of us are highly, highly intuitive. That's actually a lot of our birthrights, given rights, is to be intuitive. And so we have to start using these things, to our betterment, right? For ourselves and for each other and as a community, and stop thinking like in this box or mindset of, oh, we shouldn't be doing this or that, or, it's always about balance and, moderation. But, we have to get to a point where we are truly gauging inside of the parables, but outside of the, programmed box that we've been placed in of what it looks like to serve the Most High God. Because sometimes it's always been, like I said, that super constructive strictness of what it looks like, what it sounds like. And then you got the other end of it where it's like, people overdoing it and creating their own version of what's okay, and really allowing a lot of paganism and a lot of idolatry, and sometimes just straight up lewdness and sin, into the spiritualness of being, one with the good Lord, the Most High God. And so I'm going to end it with that today. We're going to speak a little bit more about that. Yeah. So thank you guys. Like, subscribe, join the page, join the discussion. Happy to have you.